Viewers, it's easy to fall back on sweeping generalizations to describe the outcome of the national election result in Bangladesh. Some have called it a new dawn, and another phrase has been used, a new page. But nothing on the ground has happened to suggest that we are witnessing anything even remotely path-breaking. The national election in Bangladesh and its build-up itself have followed a tired script. Bans on political parties, ballot fixing, violence, and the same parlous flirtations with filthy lucre. The outcome too was on expected lines. Well, almost. The BNP won 212 seats, the Jamaat 77. Now, while the victory of the centre-right Bangladesh Nationalist Party or BNP, led by Tariq Rahman, was guaranteed because of the ban on the Sheikh Hasina-led Awami League, the emergence from the fringes of the Jamaat-e-Islami, viewers, and I can show you those numbers, marks a stunning turnaround for religious politics in the nation. 77 seats. Let's pull those numbers out. There it is. 77 seats, viewers, have been taken out of 300 by the Jamaat. That's almost a quarter. Henceforth, an India-baiting BNP will rule, and the Hindu genocide normalizing Jamaat-e-Islami will sit in the opposition. With a party like that in the opposition, viewers, do you think the BNP is going to become some tempered centrist force? Viewers, the Indian government was quick to proffer congratulations in heaps. The Prime Minister, the External Affairs Minister, and several other notables posted their support for the BNP. In fact, Mr. Jaishankar, as you saw in those pictures, had just met Mr. Rahman a few days back. And this meeting was talked about, viewers, by government sources as an indication that this man, India could easily work with. This is what the Prime Minister said. Delightful to speak with Mr. Tariq Rahman. I congratulated him on the remarkable victory in the Bangladesh elections. I conveyed my best wishes and support in his endeavor to fulfill the aspirations of the people of Bangladesh. As two close neighbors with deep-rooted historical and cultural ties, I reaffirmed India's continued commitment to the peace, progress, and prosperity of both our peoples. For India, the elected alternative is potentially trickier, however, viewers. Congratulations aside, here are some reasons why. First, BNP is going to be even more militant with Delhi about providing refuge to arch-rival Awami League ex-PM Sheikh Hasina. In fact, as if on cue, setting the tone on day one itself, the BNP demanded the extradition of Hasina, almost suggesting that it was prepared to risk ties for India's cooperation on the matter. BNP leader Salahuddin Ahmed, a very senior leader, has said we have consistently pressed for her extradition in accordance with our laws. This is an issue between the foreign ministries of the two countries. The word was issue. And we've urged the Indian government to hand her back so she can stand trial. So this is going to be an issue, viewers. Second, BNP has denounced the heroic legacy of Bangladesh's founder Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who spearheaded the country's liberation struggle and helped it to emerge as an independent nation in 1971 from Pakistan. BNP's win paves the way for good relations with Islamabad and potentially the formation of an axis of influence that will include China, that already has entrenched stakes in Bangladesh. Third, the current leader of BNP, that has won a majority, is accused of running a weapons smuggling network supplying guns to the Ulfa separatist group in Assam. With that background, BNP chief Tariq Rahman, unlike his late mother Khalida Zia, is less likely to pander to India's core interests and concerns. And even Khalida Zia, viewers, when she was in power, viewers, and there was the undermining of India's territorial integrity because her party provided shelter to all sorts of terror groups and also Ulfa Qada, viewers, separatists in Assam, that is. So there's a history there. And viewers, let me tell you that the Jamaat has been in alliance with the BNP right up till 2024. So they just uncoupled a few months ago. Delhi's work is cut out. And finally, viewers, the Jamaat-e-Islami has emerged as the principal opposition, which marks a dangerous flirtation with once shunned Islamism in Bangladesh. A look at the electoral map there shows that the Jamaat is on India's doorstep. All those seats that are marked green are all on India's borders, and they are all the seats that were won by the Jamaat. Jamaat, viewers, is on India's doorstep. Most areas of Bangladesh bordering India have been won by the Jamaat. The concern is an immediate violence, but Islamist mobilization and radicalization in areas in Bangladesh contiguous with India. The emergence of the religious option says a lot about growing religious parochialism in Bangladesh society. And viewers, because, and let's bring that map back out again, because the Jamaat is where it is, up in the north, border of Assam, and right there, the border of Bengal, viewers, there is a concern that this area could become a staging ground for Islamist radicals primed by Pakistan's ISI. Remember, there is an ideological contiguity between the Islamists in Pakistan and the Islamists in Bangladesh. Time will tell, but clearly for the reasons above, Delhi can expect to encounter problems from Dhaka. And this is an issue, viewers. A lot of people will try to brush it under the carpet, but we have a problem. Let's, however, ask the experts. Let's open this up. And I want to first begin with Mr. Chaudhry. Mr. Salahuddin Chaudhry is a senior journalist who's an observer on the ground. Very, very, very courageous man who speaks his mind in a country where that can earn you a sentence in jail. So, Mr. Salahuddin, thank you very much. But I have to ask you this question tonight. Is there a reason why New Delhi, I'm not talking about alarm, but needs to be a little skeptical about what has happened in Bangladesh, especially the emergence of the Jamaat from the periphery?
Thank you very much, sir. First of all, I'd like to draw the kind attention of my colleague, Mr. Sushant sir, into an issue that the statement of Salahuddin Ahmed, it is not very much the statement of BNP at this moment. Secondly, about the Jamaat capturing all the bordering areas during this election, Jamaat has spent over $500 million during this election campaign, and the major segment of this fund came from Beijing and Islamabad. So Beijing and Islamabad have a plot of planting Jamaat or capturing those sensitive areas through Jamaat, and Jamaat has succeeded. Now, where is the relief for us? First of all, on 12th of February, people of Bangladesh has revolted against American hegemony and Pakistani hegemony, and we have voted a party that America, Britain, and China was not looking for, and Pakistan or were not looking for being in power. They wanted Jamaat Islami to grab the power. That has been foiled initially. Now the other things about the extradition of Sheikh Hasina or whatever, I think these are BNP has already announced. The Amir Khusro Mahmood Chaudhry, BNP's senior leader, he has declared that BNP is going to have a policy for strengthening relations with the neighboring nations, and then he categorically mentioned India. So Tariq Rahman will definitely have a strong relations with India. And about the previous accusations on him. Please note that during that time, Jamaat-e-Islami was the coalition partner with BNP, and Jamaat was practically playing this dirty role. So this must be investigated, who were behind what. And during the BNP's role, Ulfa leader Anup Chetia was arrested in Bangladesh. So we were already under the notorious rule of this the monster Muhammad Yunus. We are a bit relieved that at least we have a democratically elected government.
Okay.
And as to Sheikh Hasina
That's
and
arguable. Democratic, yes. I mean, arguable statement, but we can come to that in just a few moments. I do take your point that the Jamaat was primed to win. So from that perspective, Sushant Sareen, the Jamaat haven't come sweeping into power. So that's one consolation. But I don't see much more than that, really.
So, Rahul, I think India needs to have a degree of cautious optimism on what has happened in Bangladesh. Look, given the circumstances in which elections were held, I think the results that have come out are good not just for Bangladesh, but perhaps even for India. And I'll explain why. One, before the results came out, a lot of people were predicting that it'll be a divided house. BNP might be the leading party, but might need support from outside to form a government. What they have now got is a two-third majority. What that means is that they'll be able to give a stable government in Bangladesh, which is not going to be held to ransom, at least electorally or constitutionally, by the Jamaat or any of the other parties. It also means that the referendum, which was there to strangulate whichever party came into power, can be, I think, altered because they have the numbers now to effect constitutional amendments. So from that point of view, it's good for Bangladesh. They'll be able to give stability, and the fact that the Jamaat, now this is troublesome, okay, you can see it both ways. But the fact that the Jamaat is going to be the principal opposition party for the foreseeable future means that the BNP will have a vested interest in keeping them at bay. At the same time, the fact that the Jamaat occupies the opposition space means that they have a certain field to play. They will raise hell. They will do all kinds of things to try and push the government on the back foot. So if I was in the BNP, I would recommend to them that, okay, you might have a beef with Sheikh Hasina, but you should create or open up some space for the Awami League to play the role of an opposition, even if it's outside the parliament. Because if the Awami League was to play opposition, it will constrict the space for Jamaat, and it will increase the space for the government for the foreseeable future. I would think that from that perspective, the result which has come out is one that India can live with. Of course, the proof of the pudding will be in the eating. Now, all those things that you have recounted in the past, they are true. You can look at it whichever way you want to look at it. But yes, those things happened. But please remember, somebody like Tariq Rahman has been in exile for almost 17 years, out of power for almost 20 years. People evolve. He's 60 years old, so he was like 40 years old, precocious at the point of time when he went into exile or lost power. 20 years in exile also teaches you a lot of things, brings in a certain degree of maturity, a certain better sense of how to see the world. And what Bangladesh is today, the linkages that developed between India and Bangladesh, forget about the last 1.5 years where that clown show was happening with this fellow Muhammad Yunus. But now that you have a permanent government in place, they will understand, if Bangladesh needs to develop, it needs to prosper, they don't have a choice but to have good relations with India. And for Indian security also, it is important to have good relations with Bangladesh. Now, if that better sense prevails, then there is no reason. It might not be
But
what
let
it
me
was.
let me ask you on that point. That's an interesting one. Better relations with Bangladesh, India must have, but every time a statement is going to be issued by Sheikh Hasina from Indian soil, it's going to rankle the BNP. The BNP will be looking over its shoulder and it will see the hand of India on Sheikh Hasina. And that is going to create a problem. I mean, let's not run away from it. I'll just give you a corollary. Just think about it. If Rahul Gandhi tomorrow were Prime Minister and he were to flee, and Bangladesh or even Pakistan were to give him refuge, let's say Bangladesh were to give him refuge, let's go like for like, and from there he were to constantly attack, let's say, the Modi government that has come to power, I don't think the Modi government would be too happy. So if you just flip it around, it doesn't sound very good.
No, okay. So let me flip the question which you have raised around again, right? One, I don't think in India, at least I hope, we never see a day where the leader of opposition has to run away from India and take refuge in a neighboring country.
No, I mean, I'm being hypothetical, but let's get to the point.
I know.
When
but
you have somebody...
But even if, one second, look, it is one thing for a political leader to have taken refuge in a neighboring country, as has happened in the case of Sheikh Hasina. It is quite another for a neighboring country to give refuge to an insurgent, a terrorist, a separatist.
No, but she's now convicted under the Bangla law. And this is what I'm saying, sir. They consider her to be a person who is a fugitive.
Under the Bangla law, Rahul, under Bangladesh's law, there were so many people who were sentenced to prison terms in absentia. So, you know, when the political equations change, those laws change. It is the same.
You think so? One second. Let me bring in Mr. Chaudhary. You think so, sir?
Okay,
is it all forgotten, clean slate? You can keep Ms. Sheikh Hasina and she can keep...
How is it? No, Rahul, allow me to ask you one question. This is something which I think people in Bangladesh need to ask themselves. How is it that when somebody takes refuge in London, nobody says anything, it's perfectly fine, they can continue doing politics from there. But if somebody takes refuge in India, then, you know, everybody gets their knickers in a twist. The point is, what is it? That white man's refuge is better than brown man's refuge?
I think that's not the issue. I don't think that's the issue. The issue is interference in a country's affairs. And this is where, see, look, I mean, just let me elaborate. Look at what happened with Canada and India. Look at what happened with Canada and India. Look at what happened with Canada and India.
Are we telling Sheikh Hasina to issue statements? We are not.
No, but she is. She's using our soil to politicize a situation or to play politics. And that tantamounts to, it's the same example that I want to use with Canada or with extremists, Sikh extremists who are sitting in England. It does create a friction.
Let's not forget. India is not an extremist. She's a political leader.
A lot of people, as I'm saying, at least the current dispensation sees her as somebody who is militating against the interests. Worse, seditious character militating against the interests of Bangladesh. That she was selling it out. These are the charges that have been brought against her. So, and all sorts of other crimes that she supposedly has conducted using secret police and so on and so forth.
A lot of those charges are utterly ridiculous.
No, that's fine. I'm just saying.
Politics.
Okay. I think let me open this up. Let's open this up. I follow the trajectory of your thoughts. You're being cautiously optimistic. Let's ask the other two gents. Dr. Ranganathan, are you cautiously optimistic or do you see that there are problems now? Is Bangladesh going to become the next headache, migraine, call it what you want to, and that we have to start playing our cards and we've got our work cut out and have to play our cards a little better?
Rahul, first of all, thank you for putting the entire debate in a brilliant perspective through your primer just now and through what you've tweeted earlier. The choice for Bangladesh was clear. It was either going to be a wolf in sheep's clothing or a wolf in wolf's clothing. They have chosen the former. Tariq Rahman has traditionally been anti-India, and his anti-India rhetoric has only increased after Sheikh Hasina's refuge here. India needs to be extremely wary. Here are 5 reasons why, very briefly. Number 1, heightened security risks in India's northeast. Previous BNP governments have provided safe havens to Indian insurgent groups operating in the northeast, allowing them to regroup and launch activities from Bangladeshi soil. Number two, increased anti-India sentiment and minority persecution. The BNP's alliances with Islamist groups like Jamaat-e-Islami will exacerbate anti-Hindu violence and broader anti-India rhetoric as seen in the unrest following Sheikh Hasina's ouster in 2024. This will lead to communal tensions spilling over into India. Number three, shift towards Pakistan and China. Now this is obvious. A BNP government will prioritize closer ties with Pakistan and China at India's expense. This will disrupt the balance of power in the subcontinent. Surely it will, including through increased Chinese influence in Bangladesh's infrastructure and defense, challenging India's regional dominance. Number four, economic disputes over bilateral deals. BNP has signaled intentions to review and renegotiate agreements with Indian firms, especially on power projects, as you know. This could lead to trade disruptions. And finally, five, challenges in border control and migration. Reduced cooperation on issues like illegal infiltration and border security will worsen. They already are, fueling domestic political issues in Indian states like West Bengal and Assam, more so as both these border states go for elections. Rahul, let us understand that most of the places where that rabid jihadi Jamaat-e-Islami party has won are all at the India-Bangladesh border. But you know, at a broader level, and please give me 30 seconds, remember the recent open threat by the Muslim AIMIM MLA against setting up an army camp in the vulnerable Siliguri Chicken Neck corridor, signaling that India is not allowed to build an army camp on its own land to protect its own? Well, you have Bangladeshi Muslims wanting to attack the corridor and take away the Seven Sisters. You have Pakistani Muslims planning attacks from Nepal to wring the chicken neck. And now you have the missing part of the Holy Trinity. Indian Muslims refusing to allow our armed forces to secure the area. This was bound to happen. Many prominent districts that surround the chicken neck are now Muslim majority. Kishanganj 68.54% Muslim, Uttar Dinajpur 53.5% Muslim, Malda 53.4% Muslim. These are official figures. Add to it the hordes of illegals and you have not a ticking, but Rahul, a hissing time bomb. We fail to understand where all this hate comes from. It can't all come from across the border. It comes from an ideology that transcends borders. The wolves are uniting, Rahul. The future looks ominous for the sheep at both sides of the border.
Well, look, I mean, let me bring in Mr. Gupta here. Mr. Gupta, look, Sheikh Hasina is welcome in India because she helped to insulate India's core interests. Even while, and I'm not discounting the fact that she did not open herself up to the Chinese. She did. But there was an attempt at balancing. We don't know about the Jamaat. We don't know who they are actually today fronting for. We don't know about the BNP. And I frankly believe that the decoupling between the BNP and Jamaat was just strategic. It was perhaps to take up the opposition space in some ways, to squeeze out anyone else, like the Chhatras and, you know, some of the other Gen Z types. I just feel that that was the whole idea. They've just decided that they are going to basically completely monopolize the political scheme.
Good evening, Rahul. Look, we do not know their fronting, correct? But I think the government of India will negotiate with the new regime as they were negotiating with the Muhammad Yunus regime. It's that simple. Even when Muhammad Yunus took over after that chaotic revolution, we all had these questions that Yunus is probably a front for the CIA or for some Western lobbies or Western fronts. So will the government of India negotiate with him, given Sheikh Hasina has actually landed in India? But eventually the government of the day did. So even now, I think the government will negotiate with the new government in power, the government of India, that is. But what worries me is the corridor that we have now. In Bengal, there is absolutely no seriousness when it comes to strengthening our borders. On the other side, you have the Jamaate, whose sole political goal is to have the Sharia law in place. Now, my worry is if Jamaate-Islami becomes the principal opposition party of Bangladesh, where are we going in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, in the next 15 years, in the next 20 years? Look, demography is not a friend on both sides of the border. And we saw what happened in areas like Sandesh Khali, and when the findings were made public, there were reports about nexus that operate on both sides of the border. So are we looking at a threat like that, if not immediately, in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years? And what happens then? Today, we are discussing that, look, this is the problem right before us. The election results tell us so. 3 months later, 6 months later, we'll be talking about the West Bengal elections. And whoever party wins, the question would be the same. What are we doing to strengthen our borders against West Bengal and Bangladesh?
Yeah.
Because the kind of porous border it is, the infiltration becomes very, very simple.
Yeah,
Now, number two, remember when Operation Sindoor was on, there were several handles operating on behalf of ISI, proxy handles, bot handles, whatever you want to call them. They said the next threat to India will come from the east. Now, do we start looking at Jamaat-e-Islami in that context also? This is a clear, visible danger. And that is why I agree with what Sushant said in the very beginning. It's in our best long-term interest to have Awami League play some kind of a role, even if they are outside power, even if they do not have significant seats. But to have Jamaat-e-Islami as the principal opposition of party of Bangladesh, I think if not today, tomorrow it will spell a lot of trouble for us.
That is if, of course, the BNP is serious about approaching politics from a more moderate and centrist lens. If it isn't, viewers, then we've got a problem. Mr. Chaudhary, very quickly, I've got a minute here. I want to ask you, has the Jamaat and BNP now sufficiently decoupled, or are they only doing this strategically to monopolize the political scape?
Time will say what is the reality, but in my opinion, about Awami League reinstating, reviving its politics in this country, Sheikh Hasina has to find a leader who can lead this, because from sitting in India, she cannot do this. And to my understanding, she is doing a lot of confusing things sitting in India. So she needs someone on the ground. There should be a lifting of ban on Awami League.
So you're not certain. So you're not certain if the Jamaat and the BNP are really decoupled. You're not certain about that? He's not certain. And that is the fundamental problem, because, viewers, the last thing we need is a government that is going to give a wide berth to this entire brigade that has an ideological connect with those in Pakistan. Yes. And that's my worry, viewers. That is really the problem here. Let's hope for the best, though, as they say. And I just want to move on